right? We not having that. We want to build a community, forever. Kids win, we win. Period. Stuff is real. All right, welcome back. Class is in session. Welcome everybody to another episode of A.M.UNIVERSITY. I'm your host, Antoine Miller. What we on, Wayne?
What's that, 31?
Reggie
Miller.
I knew that was going to come first. Reggie Miller.
Antonio Cromartie.
Ooh.
Florida State legend.
Ooh, there you go. You bringing that out. How your week going, brother?
Everything good, man.
Are you looking good? Looking good.
It's my boy.
You came in, I was like, where are you going today?
Nowhere.
KENELL Sanchez, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good, no complaints.
KENELL Sanchez, good to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you could come. Before we get into it with you, man. When was it? It was yesterday, right? With DMX. First of all, rest in peace to DMX. I've never seen anybody penetrate emotions through music more than that man, and I doubt it'll ever be somebody else, that just whatever type of emotion just drew it out of you like he did, so it's selfishly you wish he was still here, but again, anybody that know his story, he been through a lot, so we know he peaceful now, and the pain is over. So, but rest in peace, DMX. I just had to say that, from the start. But getting into it, KENELL. So you had a long basketball career, brother. You had a long basketball career on all three levels. And again, like I'm around kids. We're around kids a lot, and they have no idea what that journey is like. They have no idea what goes into it. They have no idea the decisions that you got to make, the sacrifices that you got to make in order to have a successful career, and play basketball your whole life. That's a blessing within itself. So let's just backtrack from the start, because you a Camden kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
You a Camden kid.
Yep, I grew up on the 800 block of Hatton.
Okay.
800 block of Hatton. My grandmother. So it was my grandmother, or it was my dad's mom. So I was in the house with them. I had, at any given time, 4 uncles in the house at a time, plus my grandfather. And my grandfather was a box cutter out in Runnymede. So every morning, he's an ex-military guy, so he'd be up at 5:30, knock on my door. My room was connected to theirs, so he would always come and get me, even on days we didn't have school, and get me up early. And I hated it, man. Like, it was crazy, and if I didn't get up, that's when he got the hanger. You know what I mean? So it was interesting, man. But it was funny because, like, as you think back on it, in my household, my dad lived in the basement, right? He lived in the basement. I lived on the top floor. My grandparents, my uncles were spread throughout the house. But, that was just one culture there. And then my mother, she was from the other side of South Camden. I don't know if you guys probably don't remember or not, but up on Broadway, you get to the end of Broadway, you pass Morgan Village, head up to Broadway, make that right. It's to be these places, like, we just call them the terraces. Okay. So it's like a couple blocks of homes, and then like a factory, like a laundry factory on the side. So when I wasn't at my grandparents' house during the week over there, I would be on the other side of Camden. Growing up on that side with my grandmother, my grandfather, they both Puerto Rican, and my mom in that house. So it was definitely an interesting journey. But I would say my mother and my grandfather, they kind of set the tone for me, right? Like, my grandfather was like the basis of the work ethic for me, right? Like, him coming in even at an early age, like, getting me up early, making me do stuff, even though it was like, it wasn't that time. Yeah. It laid that foundation of like, yo, if I'm up, you up.
You ain't know at the time.
Yeah,
but now you look back at it. It's one of the most important things in your life. But yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, man. I mean, like honestly, man, I was a baseball guy growing up. Okay. Yeah, like I like baseball. I played over at Whitman Park. It was more my thing. I've always been big. I mean, you guys know me, so I've been this size since like the 7th grade. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had facial hair since the 6th grade. So, I was always bigger, and my family, they played ball. I came from a basketball family. So, My dad, he played at the high, started on the teams. He was played with guys like Milt Wagner, Billy Thompson, and those guys. My uncle, he was on the team that was ranked #1 in the country with Vic Karstaffen and all those guys. You know, so my family had already been in it, right? My other uncle, he was on the team that probably gonna hate me for this, but lost to Neptune in the chip. Yeah, he was on that team.
It's on YouTube.
So yeah, man, it's terrible. But he was on that. My other uncle was on that team. So I was always around basketball. You know what I'm saying? And nobody really forced it on me. My dad put the ball in my hands, but nobody really forced it on me. But so I was more of a baseball guy, man. And then one day I remember being over at the park. And like I was just messing around, but like I was like, yo, I'm a little bit better than everybody else right now, you know. The kids my age at least, you know. One, I was bigger, so I was going to be better. But then I started also noticing, you know, getting some of the opposite sex attention while I was at the court. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, everybody feeling me. Okay, so let me try this basketball thing out, and that's kind of how I started into the game. Was because I started to realize. Not just the attention from other people, right? But I started to realize that in my neighborhood, if I wanted to, you know, have some say or do anything like that, like baseball wasn't the option for me, in my opinion.
Hey, man.
Knowing what I know now, I probably would have stayed and played baseball. I want $500 million contracts, right?
Easy.
But I started seeing that if I wanted, you know, everybody who got the pub, they got the what they call the ink. They all played basketball,
Right.
And you know, fortunately, I'm from a basketball-rich city,
Right.
you know, so that's kind of the path I decided to take.
Okay. So that's an amazing segue into let's get straight into high school. Like for me, you know me personally, how my high school was. I'm really intrigued what his answer gonna be with this. Why did you choose Bishop Eustace?
It was funny, man. So when I hit 6th grade, right? I didn't go to my middle school was supposed to be Hatch.
Okay.
Right. So I was supposed to go to Hatch, right? And I never forget this. So I'm sitting in they sit me down. They go, all right, look, you're not going to Hatch. So I'm like, where am I going? Yeah. Like, you're not going to Hatch. I'm like, so where am I going? Everybody else went to Hatch. Why can't I go to Hatch? They're like, no, you can't go to Hatch. It's like, you know, you done at Forest Hill. I was talking with the elementary at Forest Hill. So you done there.
Me too.
You're gonna move in with your uncle. So my uncle, he was at the time, he was a Camden police officer. Okay. Right, and he was living out in Deptford. And he was like, they were like, yeah, we're gonna have you go out there. And he was my man, so I was cool. I was like, all right, cool, but you know, I don't get to go to school with my friends. Right. It's like, you'll be all right. So they kind of like forced me to go to school outside the city. So they was like, all right, you're gonna go to Deptford. So I moved to Deptford in 6th grade. And at that point, I still hadn't really like honed basketball. Like it was something I knew I wanted to do. This is around the time I was still into the baseball a little bit. And they was like, yeah, man, we're gonna move you out. So they moved me out to Deptford. And you know, I'm sitting there in the living room, and I'm like, yo, man, like I want to go back home. You know what I mean? I want to be home. I want to be around, you know, my friends. I want to do what I need to do. They're like, nah, look, you need to stay out here, yo. Apparently, I was gonna get a better education there than I would at the school.
What did you miss from the hood, other than being out Deptford? Like, be honest, like, what was you missing? Like, what was it? Like, can you explain?
Looking back on it, I wasn't really missing anything. Right, and that's the thing that like younger kids they don't get is that like a lot of times the stuff that you really think you want to do at that time is always going to be there. You know what I mean? Looking back on it, I didn't miss anything. But what I thought I was missing opportunities to, you know, hang out with my boys, be in school with them, right? I still hadn't made that decision yet to play basketball. So I was playing it for fun, but I still hadn't made that decision to really go at it. And for me, it was like, yo, I just want to go to the next grade with everybody else. But when I moved out there, it was actually like a time again where like it kind of showed me, like basketball had its way of showing me like this is what I should be doing, right? I had that time at the park when it was like before baseball practice I just told you guys about, and then I'm out there one day and it's just like ain't nothing to do out there, right? Like they don't even have sidewalks on some of the streets. You know what I'm saying? So they had this court not too far from the house, and like every day we had to catch the bus to school. It's the first time I was on a bus, and I would always see people at the court. So I was like, man, I'm gonna just go shoot some hoops one day. So after school, I rode my bike over, shot some hoops, and was like, okay, we playing, we doing our thing. I'm actually all right. You know, halfway through my 6th grade year, and then I was just like, man, you know what? Like, they gotta have a league or something. And my uncle, he wanted me to play football. Right? He's like, oh, you'd be a quarterback, you know, you tall, you know. I'm like, he always thought way ahead. He was talking about golf and football. I'm like, don't nobody play either one. I'm not playing football. It's too cold outside, right? And I'm not playing golf. Don't nobody play golf, right? But then finally, what happened was, I remember I was at Camden High football game because I used to always come back. My grandfather was like a super fan of the High, like he and then doing this thing, like he was a super fan. So we was at a football game. And I was like, yo, I want to play basketball. And my uncle was like, you want to do what? I was like, I want to play basketball. Like get me signed up for a team. And then my dad at the time was at the same game, right? So it's like, and it's rare because it wasn't very rare, but it wasn't too often where we were always in the same room having like a deep conversation growing up. Because my grandparents pretty much took over the raising of me. And he's like, yo, man, like, I'm like, yo, I want to play ball. They're like, well, if you want to play ball, you got to make sure your grades are good. Grades never been an issue for me. Like, because I always had that, like, fear of having those uncles in the house. I always had that fear of, like, all right, if I want to do this, I got to have good grades. Because if I don't, they ain't going to let me play. Right? So they was like, yo, man, you can play. And I got signed up. I'll never forget it. I was on the C team in Defford. I was on the C team because I started late. Right. A team was closed. So I had to like kind of like dial it back a little bit. When I went in, like it was like, yo man, like look, we're gonna put you on the team, but you gotta slow down and you can't do too much because then they're gonna start asking the township gonna start asking questions. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll pull back a little bit. I still had fun.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, but I had to pull back a little bit. But
I don't see how that benefit them, but go ahead.
Yeah. It was crazy, man. So like to answer your question, like how did I end up at Houston's? Getting out there immediately when I got done in middle school, so around 8th grade, obviously, you know, that was around the time when like the recruiting for high school kids really started to like pick up. There was that time where like people would prep a year, right? And then you would either go to like, if you didn't want to go to like one of your local high schools, you had an option of going to somewhere else. St. Anthony's, St. Pat's was big at that time, right? Obviously the High was here doing their thing, but they weren't really recruiting because it's all public, right? So I was living in Defford, and the coach at Defford High wanted me to go there.
Of course.
So I was like, all right, cool. I can go to Defford High. I was like, I can move back home. I can go to Camden High. And then since I had been playing travel ball, you know, which is something that like it's a shame. Like growing up, like when we were growing up, we didn't really have that in the city. We didn't have like, okay, cool. This is a Camden team with the best, you know, 12 kids from the city,
we know.
And not AAU, just regular, like just
travel,
regular, travel ball, right? And look, y'all gonna go play against Marlton, y'all gonna go play against Mount Laurel, you're gonna go play against, you know, Defford or, you know, Pittman and all that kind of stuff. But they had that out there. So me getting a chance to get out there and get that exposure, I'm playing in Marlton one day and this guy walks up after the game and is like, yo man, I know you in 8th grade. You're gonna be graduating, you're gonna be leaving 8th grade after this year. How would you like to come to Bishop Houston's? I was like, Bishop Houston's? I was like, I don't even know where that's at.
You don't know nothing about tuition or nothing.
I don't know nothing about tuition, right? So I'm like, yo, man, I don't even know where that's at. It's like, it's right there, right in Pensacola. And I'm like, where's that at? By Cooper River Park. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
I know the park.
I know where the park is. I used to work out there, right? So I'm like, all right, so, you know, you want me to go to Houston's? I'm like, I don't know, man. So I asked my parents, like my dad at that time was back in, so he was like really involved with it. And he was like, yo, like you should go to Houston. I was like, bro, I don't even know where it's at. Turns out my mom, she used to work multiple jobs just to support, right? And she actually used to work at the Goodwill across the street, right? And I used to go to her job sometimes to spend the day with her. Yep. And I would look over there. I thought it was just a bunch of fields with a bunch of geese on it. I had no idea it was a high school. Yeah. So anyway, we get down and they're like, yo, we need to make a decision. Like, where are we going to go? And this is around the time where, like, DeJuan Wagner just started. Because he's a year older than me, right? So he's just in the game. So I'm obviously going to the Camden High games, right? I'm watching him do his thing, you know. And I had been going to the games prior to that as well, you know, to see some of the other dudes that was on the teams. My boy, actually, guy Garrett Bradley, is like, he's like my brother. We're not brothers, but he's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, he was in my family before I was in my family. And he was at the High coming off the bench. He didn't get a lot of time, but he got a little bit of time. And he was like, and they were like making the decisions. They were trying to make the decision on what I was supposed to do. And I was like, yo man, I want to go to the High. Everybody else went to the Camden High. I want to go to Camden High too. I was like, you know, I'm gonna play. I'm decent. I didn't think I was good at that time, right? I just wasn't like, yo, I'm the bomb. I was like, yeah, I'm like, yo, I'm decent. I could probably make the team. And Camden High had, I think at that time, the year before I came out, I know obviously they had the kid, OG, they had DeJuan, Durian was on the team. And it's funny because I ran into Durian playing travel ball. Right, he played on the team. He played on Eve Sham's team.
He had to go all the way out Eve Sham.
He was on Eve Sham's team, and I remember seeing this kid. I'm like, yo, this dude is not. Yeah, Dorian Brown. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, man, this dude's nice. I was like, yo, but then I found out. I was like, yo, is he from Camden? Yeah. Right. I thought I was the only one out in the burbs playing on these things. Right. So, I get there. So we're trying to make the decision on what I'm gonna do, and my dad's like, yo, man, you're not going to Camden High. And I'm like,
another one of those moments.
Yeah, I'm like,
not going to Hatch, not going to Camden.
Yeah, not going to Camden High. Yeah, and I'm like, why not? He's like, yo, I'm gonna give you a week to make a decision, but you're not going there. So I was like, all right, cool. So immediately I was like, I'm going to Deptford High. I was like, I'm going to Deptford High. The coach had been already talking to me. I was cool with their star player. So I'm cool. I'm gonna just go over there.
Who's the star player?
At that time, they had to do. I want to say his name was Eli. No, not Eli. His brother was Eli. Kevin. I'm a jack his Kevin Vaughn, because his brother was Elon. I was kidding. Kevin Vaughn, and he was like their best player. He was actually better at football, so he played tight end and ended up playing for D1 football down in Maryland.
Somebody that was the man at Deptford. Mm-hmm. So why you even ask that question?
Because somebody like KENELL Sanchez is saying the star player. Like, it's funny. It's like
yeah, but he don't know he KENELL Sanchez yet at the time.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Now he was on South Jersey though, his senior year, right? I mean, you know what I mean. But like, yeah. So I was like, you know, I was heavy. I was big on like, wanting to go there. You know, at that time I had another group of friends settled in. And then I remember the day we came upstairs, I was like, all right, look, I'm gonna just go to Deptford. He's like, nah, you're gonna Houston. He's like, that's it. I'm like, well, at this time I did my research. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, now I think Bishop Houston is like $15,000 to go there a year. When I was coming up, it was $8,000.
Okay,
right?
Still.
And it's like, so with the inflation, obviously, it's pretty much the same. So I was like, okay, we can do it, but who got $8,000? And it's like, we'll work it out.
So that person that told you didn't say nothing about money yet. Well, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's like, yo, we'll work it out. I'm like, well, what do you mean we'll work it out? Like, we don't got the money. You want me to go there? Yo, you're going to get a better education, he said. And you know, it's funny when you look at the story of me and my father, because, you know, in and out, whole life, right? And it was just like some of those key moments, like he like came in at the right time, because he's like, yo, you're going there. And I was like, bro, like, you just came back home. Like, I ain't going nowhere you telling me to go. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going nowhere. You know, you at this time you're 15, so you starting to pump your chest out a little bit. I'm not going nowhere you at. I'm not going. Then my mom said, no, I think it's a good decision. Right? So when my mom said it, that's my heart. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot for you guys. And that's what I did, man. So we ended up working it out. The guy who approached me ended up working some things out through financial aid, getting me a lot of. I think I ended up going there for about like close to like just $500 a year, which is stealing, right? And that was.
Rewind it back. You said it's like $8,000 when you was going down. It's like $15,000.
No,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, 15,000.
15 now, but when he was going, it was 8. You went to school for how much?
$500.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay.
$500 too much.
It's still, but still.
Yeah. So I went for 5. I didn't say I paid 5.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I should have let you talk.
Oh yeah, no, your guys are great, man. Nah, so yeah, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they ended up working something out. So something got worked out, and I ended up going to Houston, and that was like, I think that was the most, probably the most pivotal point in my life, was
and to
getting
pat yourself
into that
on the
school.
back. You was in school doing your thing on education, so wasn't even the problem. Like, they couldn't say, well, you got to keep your grades up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing when like these guys coming up now, they don't understand, like, if you set the foundation for yourself in the classroom, right, your options open up dramatically, right? And that's the thing people don't get, is like, yeah, you hear a lot of, especially like I'm like, right now I'm an entrepreneur, right? So like I said, I run a marketing firm over in Philadelphia. And you know, now it's really popular to kind of like shit on education, right? Oh, it's not important. You don't need your degree. You don't need this. And part of it's truth, part of it's false. You know what I'm saying? It depends on the person and what they're trying to execute on, right? And nowadays, kids don't get the understanding of like, no, it's actually important just so you can have options, right? Because what a lot of people don't understand is that, you know, you can be, you don't have to be a top tier talent to get a top tier education and experience in life, right? Because schools, colleges, and I learned this when I played college ball, colleges need bodies too, right? Everybody on Kentucky ain't an all-star, ain't an all-American, right? You got dudes that's 11th, 12th on the bench that's getting a great education that you probably played against in high school that are just big, not good. You know what I mean? But they need bodies too, and they got scholarships to take care of those bodies. But they want somebody that's going to help the GPA go up, right? The team GPA, because that's good for the coaches. They want somebody to help that GPA go up, right? And just be there to practice. You know what I'm saying? And so me having that foundation of me having that foundation of just like that education and having the grades opened up the door for me. You know what I'm saying?
Speak on the private school life.
It's different, man. It's different. So I get to Houston, and of course, like I'm a city kid, right? So immediately, you know what my mindset is, right? My mindset is, all right, I've never been around these culture of people before. They probably don't like me. Let me throw my guard up, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that it's good to have that chip on your shoulder, but I think we got to teach the kids better on, you know, how they got to open up and they got to mix in and talk to other people, right? Because when I got there, I show up first day. Everybody knows who I am. I don't know any of these kids. And when I say know who I am,
they calling you
like
by name.
They calling me by name. I had a kid tell me, I remember my first day, hey man, listen, I'm so glad you're at this school. We followed you since you've been playing basketball since 7th grade. Right? Actually, the guy's still my friend today. Right? So I get to school and it was a culture shock because at this point I had moved back out of Deptford back on Haddon Avenue. Right? So I'm getting up every morning, I'm putting on a blazer, a tie, some pants, and I'm getting on a bus. It's only 4 other kids in the city that's going over to the school. Right? And at that time it was crazy.
Boys, girls, what's the ratio with that? The 4?
No, it's co-ed.
No, I'm saying like the 4 people that out of camp.
Oh, out of camp. So actually it was 6.
No name.
It was 6. It was 6. On the bus. So it was 4 dudes because we had had Asian dudes too in there. So we had 4 dudes, and the rest was the other one was girls, right?
Okay.
But the dudes was a dude named Carl Clark, a dude named Juan Rozier, who you guys probably know, and me. Right, like that was it, and we were going there because we played ball, of course. Right? So yeah, I used to catch the bus, and I used to have to walk. I used to have to walk from my house. I had to walk to the corner of Park Boulevard, Haddon Park, and catch the bus there. You know, I'm in my blazer. You know, and I'm like, man, I should be going to the high, right? And I'm hearing all of these stories about people who should have went to Houston that ended up going to the high. Like people don't know, but I think it was Kevin Walls was actually at Bishop Houston's first, and then ended up at Camden High, which is crazy.
Billy Thompson was at Sterling, and he ended up at Camden High.
Yup, and the list goes on. Even guys as far back as like Billy Culberson. Like, it's crazy, right? So like, I get there to answer your question, man. I get there and it's complete culture shock. Right, so I get on campus. Kids got cars, like, and not regular cars, like not like I put it like this, like my junior year, my mom, she scavenged it up and she got me a Buick Century. Lasted me 6 months. That was your beauty. Oh man, who you telling?
Right.
Still my favorite car, right? That I ever had, right? I got that. You know, my boys, they getting CLKs, right? Convertibles, Beamers. One of the girls I went to school with, her it used to be called Iguanas back when we were in school, but the place is Top Dog now. Her parents own Top Dog, and it was a culture shock, man. It was a culture shock. It was definitely different, you know, coming in and seeing it, and I had to make the adjustment quick. But what it did for me, just from being in that environment, was it helped me more so now in my life, and like as I got through college, it helped me more so because it gave me a good balance on understanding everything. So now I'm a person that, you know, I can walk in any room and I can be confident and I can be comfortable because I know I know how to take care of myself, and then 2, I know how to advance myself. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing. But it was crazy at Houston's, man. It was a little different.
Okay. So I mean, you had a really good career. Anybody that followed in this area. So let me fast forward to the end of that before we get into college, because so overall you that was a good idea. That was the right choice.
So going into my junior year, I started playing AAU basketball. Right before, like, it was like it was actually like my sophomore year. Going into my sophomore year before I get to junior year, I started playing AAU basketball. And that's when Del Valle was real popular. So growing up as a kid, you know, I used to still go, before I committed to Houston, I used to always still go to Camden High. 8th grade, I used to go to Camden High for their open gyms. Play against guys like Nate Johnson, like those kind of guys, right? Or at least try to, right? And Del Valle was popular. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys remember, like, they all had, Del Valle hoops, right? So it was Wani, his whole crew. They had a guy from Coatesville. They had, you know, all of them had the little tattoos on their arms. So I'm like, all right, cool. So, like, you know, I had seen them and I was like, yeah. They all had the tattoos and stuff, the Del Valle tattoos. And I was just like, man, you know, like, let me play with these guys. So eventually what happened was I didn't play with them then, but later on, I say going into my sophomore year, I got with them and I played with them. And you know, it kind of solidified my decision for me, because it was like, yo, I'm on a team. And in my opinion, if we just take positions out of it and height out of it and all stuff, I felt like I was probably the 3rd best guy on the team. Right? Obviously, DeJuan, number 1. Right? OG, number 2. But I felt like I was like,
the boy from Coatesville, was that John
He
Allen?
was out, John Allen. Yup. He was out. We used to call him Tootie. He was out of there by then. He wasn't on the team by then. He was playing with Tim Thomas and those guys.
Okay.
But I was like, yo, like, I'm next, but I didn't play. I didn't play. I barely played. When I played, I stunk it up, which is why I barely played. You know, and it kind of was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is good or not. So what I did was I worked really hard on my game that summer, because I ended up not finishing out the season. It was the only team I ever started but didn't finish. And I never forget, they came and collected all the gear. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you just started. So came, collected all the gear. I was like, okay, like I'm gonna be back. Like we're gonna see what's gonna happen this summer. And I went home and I worked my ass off that summer, man. But I was actually, I don't know if you guys know, but I had 3 different high school coaches at my time at Bishop Eustis.
Wow.
So I came in, I had Billy Lang for my first 2 years. Then I had a guy, I had Bill Lang my first 2 years. We went to the South Jersey Championship and ended up losing into Jason Williams. The kid played for the Bulls, played at Duke. Ended up hurt. He's an NBA analyst now.
St. Joe's Prep.
Yep, St. Joe's Prep Metuchen. Yep. We ended up losing to him. Then all those guys left. My coach quit. And then I had another dude come in. I forget his name.
Caruso?
No, it wasn't Caruso. This was like Gallagher. I think his name was Mike Gallagher. And then I had another guy come in my senior year, Mike Sherlock, who actually coached at Camden County for a little bit. Actually, he's still a cool dude. I still rap to him sometimes.
All 3 of them was coaches, or they just had the label?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Lang was a coach.
Okay.
Billy could coach.
Yeah, Lang was the coach. He was the man. Like,
Joe,
even his son is still doing it. Yeah. So I had the father.
Oh, okay.
I had the father. Yup, I had the father. His son's at St. Joe. His son was
Okay.
assistant. He would come in. At the time, his son was working with A.M.UNIVERSITY.
Okay.
So that's why we had the A.M.UNIVERSITY gear and stuff. But yeah, so you know, Lang was a coach. He was good. The guy I had in the middle, it was all right. You know, it was what else. He actually coaches now. He's a good dude. But Sherlock was decent. Sherlock was more of like one of the guys counsel, like, hey man, look, like I'm coaching y'all. Like I played here, I have played here before. I'm gonna show y'all the ropes. The last 2 guys tried to use me as a decoy, whereas like the first dude was just kind of like, all right, like do your thing, but like, you know, I gotta get these other guys the ball too. But yeah, so fast forward, going into that 3rd year in that junior senior cusp, I was ready to transfer. Yeah.
Okay,
So
you was gonna do it.
Yeah, I was gonna do it. I was coming back. I was like, yo, man, look, I'm gonna just go to the high. Like I'll play 1 year with WAG, and then the next year it'll be mine. Like that's kind of was like next year it'll be mine.
Hours.
So I looked at
It would have been hours.
You know,
What are you talking about?
we'll never know. It'd have been yours. I'd have been yours. I'd have been your Pippin. It's all good. I'd have been your Pippin. I'd have been your Pippin. Yeah. I'm a humble guy. I'll take that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so but anyway, man, so I was like, look, man, you know, I could have it. I could share it the next year. But at least I would be able to do my thing and come back.
What?
What?
I don't know. I still don't know how it would have worked. It ain't. Y'all,
He's just fucking small forward. Like
somebody
that'd been false to
somebody still
them.
gotta get y'all the ball.
That'd have been false to them.
Somebody still gotta get y'all the
Hey,
ball.
listen to me.
I mean, I still don't
I
know.
was
So
the shooting
listen.
guard.
I still don't know how to work.
I
But
stand on
all
that.
right, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, because me and Wayne know what's up. They know what's up. Because after Wag left, we ain't lose to him. But yeah, man. So like I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll just transfer.
Okay.
And then we got everything ready. Got the paperwork ready. Got everything ready. I think at the time the coach at the high was what's my man's name?
Glenn.
Yeah. Yup. Glenn. Yup. So I was like, yeah, man. Like let's get the paperwork ready. The plan was Glenn's game plan was actually to
Swing smalls.
Hmm?
Glenn's game plan was swing smalls, and you was gonna rebound.
Well, when I remember when I was gonna be coming in, it was gonna be my junior year, so you wasn't playing yet.
Yeah.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
He's
right.
He's 2 years ahead of us, right?
One.
So
So after
Junior
Wag
year.
left, it would have been me
yeah,
and him and everybody.
I had one more year after that. Yeah.
We were sophomores.
So the
He would've been
game
senior.
plan.
He would have been with
Oh,
Ice
gotcha.
and Byron.
Right. Oh, my.
Like you feel me? Byron would
Oh,
have.
you did the right thing. But go ahead, tell the story.
Yeah, so the game plan with Glenn was have me come in, and they were gonna let me actually run the one. So a lot of people didn't know it. I could play all those positions at that time. So he's
Okay.
gonna let me run the one.
Okay.
He's gonna bring Durian off the bench, and then
That's
Wag obviously at the 2 doing his thing, and then we go from there. We're gonna go with like a bigger lineup. That was actually the game plan. That's what we had talked about. Now, would it have happened if I got there? I don't know.
No, because Shamari would have took your spot.
I don't know who that is. I'm just joking, but no, he was tough. He was good. He was good, man. But like Wayne, you gotta put it in perspective, bro. Like, I was a beast, bro. You know what I'm saying? I was pretty good.
Yeah.
But and at the end of the day, man, I got like that's what the game plan was. But man, it was weird, man. Like happened overnight. My dad was like, "Yo, it's done. We're gonna get it done. Let's get it popping." And I woke up the next morning and it was just like, it's not a smart move. So I'm like, why
You
is it
did
a
that
smart
on your
move?
own? Oh, your dad.
Yeah, they were just
Once
like,
again.
they were just like, it's not a smart move. I'm like, well, why is it a smart move? He said, look, man. And he was talking to, by this time I had started working out with a guy named Ted Davis in the city.
I know Ted.
Yeah, Ted was a really big part of my development, especially junior to senior year. Really big part of my development, like huge part.
I remember seeing you.
But
River went up my rope.
Yup. So what happened was Ted at this time Ted had already been in the mix. So Ted kind of shut it down. He was like, look, it makes no sense. You're gonna leave a great education to go do something you already doing just so you can go home. So that makes no sense. So I took his advice seriously. So at the time I was like, all right, cool, we're gonna nix it. Ended up nixing it, and then that was it. Just stayed at Houston and finished out strong from just like a numbers perspective and just in general. But yeah, Ted played a big part in that role. It wouldn't be right for me to talk about that time frame without talking about him because he sacrificed a lot during that time.
So, because you said a lot. You said a lot just now. The whole time you was here, and obviously for people that know you, you went on and had a really good solid career at Drexel. And how long did you play overseas?
Man, I played overseas for 10 years.
And you went a lot of places. Where was you at?
I was just in Argentina. I was in Chile.
Yeah.
I had a cup of tea in like Mexico, a cup of tea in like Spain, and then mostly Puerto Rico though.
Yeah. But
You got any kids out there?
No. I got one now.
But 10 years though.
Yeah,
10 years on top of your other 4, like so, because it's really important. If anybody's like really paying attention to what you're saying, is the underlying thing, like your foundation, like regardless of what your dad, like Wayne said, he came in at the right time.
Right time. Yep.
Because you as a 15, 14, 13, 16-year-old kid, like you want to do what black and white makes sense to you at the time.
He ain't even got the vernacular to understand what's going on. Like his dad said, nope.
It's like,
You going there?
and again with this show, we talk about the lack of guidance a lot. Like
That was tough.
it was a lot of we every other episode we talk about us just having to figure it out at 15 years old, right? Like, and your family and your support system just washed away that whole methodology. Like they was really there for you, and I think that's really important to put to the forefront of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you could have went on a whole different path. Like, what would have happened with KENELL Sanchez's life?
So yeah,
2 years in Camden.
I definitely think about that a lot. From just my perspective, you know what I mean? Because like obviously growing up as a Camden kid, I had Camden issues, right? Like regardless of like how great it sounds, like we still had Camden issues. You know what I mean? And in the sense of like the streets and everything like that, I was blessed, and like when I look back at my earlier years and I look back at just the people who came into my life, I think personally it was a mix of God looking after me, and then my family laying a stronger foundation so that I had options open, right? A lot of times, this is what happens. A kid starts to develop, right? The family always feels like the kid is better than what the kid actually is, right? It's just, it is what it is. You talk to anybody. If you talk to me about my kid's he's the strongest 2-year-old you ever seen, right? And the problem with parents a lot of times is they don't let somebody with more knowledge in the field come in, right? Without saying, well, what's in it for us? You know what I mean? And me, I was fortunate, because being at my dad being in and out was a blessing.
He get to step aside without even knowing he's stepping aside.
My dad being in and out was a blessing in itself, right? Because he was stepping out because of factors that I can't control.
Correct.
Right? But because that space was there, it allowed other things to fill the void, but it was positive things that was coming in my way. One, because we had the foundation of, like, at the end, if you talk to anybody about me growing up, they'll tell you I was a good kid. I wasn't in trouble. I wasn't running the streets. I didn't do any of that stuff.
So you ain't got no mug shot.
I ain't got no mug shots. Not, thank God, right? And I don't plan on having none, right? So for me, like, because that was open, and because my family was a Camden-based family, and they were already my mom was a cheerleader at Camden High when my dad was a player at Camden High. So they knew people already, right? So it wasn't ever like, oh, it's KENELL, oh, this is Kenny's kid, this is Margie's kid. And even how I ran into the guy, Ted, was different because he just showed up one day. He was working out local players and just working out 1 or 2 here and there. He had a kid, also played at High Kid. I cannot remember the kid's last name, but his first name was Aaron. He wore number 31 at Camden High. He was there before Wani got there.
Aaron Stevens?
I think so. Looked like Nick Van Exel a little bit.
Aaron Stevens.
Had to be, yeah. It had to be, right? But like he was working out a kid like him, and I was like,
that's the second best player that ever played for Camden High that didn't score 1,000.
He was tough.
Yeah, he behind.
Yeah, he had game. I'm gonna leave that alone. Nah, I was messing with you, man. But
hey, how many you scored?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I had 1769. I felt short though. It eats at my soul every. But this is why I put it like this. Look, y'all want to talk about not staying home, right? Let's talk about some negatives of not staying home and going to the school that you're supposed to, right? It's the sports system. So remember, I had 3 coaches in 4 years, right? My last 2 years, I was being used as a decoy, right? I had my highest scoring game in high school was only 42 points.
Only, you said?
Yeah, only 42 points. I was 4 away from the school record, right? With a whole quarter and a half to go, and I didn't see the floor again. Right? Like little stuff like that, right? Little stuff like, okay, cool. You a junior, it's senior night. We got a bunch of other freshmen and sophomores that we could start, but we're not gonna start you. Right, so even though it was a good eye opener, it showed me the game in a different light too. Because at Houston, there's a lot of politics, right? It was a lot of politics at that portion of my life where, like, as a black kid coming in, right, or as a black and Spanish kid coming in, I still had to wait my turn. You know what I mean? Regardless of what I was doing. So on any given night, it was like, all right, cool. Like, if somebody got a sacrifice, it's gonna be this kid. It's not gonna be,
that guy,
this guy over here. It's gonna be this kid that has to sacrifice for it. So I took my lumps there as well.
That's tough,
but yeah, man. So that was kind of the journey. But back to what you're saying, mentors. People don't allow those mentors to come in, because they think they want something. And my mentorship was really simple, right? How I looked at it is I always looked at it as a partnership. This guy I loved Kobe Bryant coming up as a kid. Penny Hardaway and Kobe Bryant, those are my guys, right?
Where he coming up? He's better than
I'm
both of those guys.
I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't much of an AI fan.
Why?
Cause he don't play like
Because
him.
one, he didn't play like him, true. But two, so me, I'm a local guy, but I always had,
I hate you.
I always had bigger get out of here aspirations. Like I wanted to get out, right? Like and far out. So like I didn't like the Sixers growing up. I didn't like the Eagles. I'm sorry, Wayne. I'm sorry, right? So for me, when I saw like Kobe and I saw like the pennies, for me it was like, okay, how Kobe work? And the dude, Kobe's a Philly guy, right? So he had that connection.
Is he Italy?
Yeah, Italy, but he's a Philly guy, right? So like the guys who used to work Kobe out.
Rest in peace, bro.
Yeah, it was absolutely. They were in Philly. They were still there. John Hartnett was still there. So Ted knew John Hartnett. So my conversation with Ted was like, yo, what was Kobe doing? Kobe was getting up at 4:30. He was doing. So immediately, I had already had a baseline work ethic since a kid because my grandfather, I told you about before, he used to always wake me up. So I just took that and transitioned whatever I wanted to do. I would wake up and like in 6th grade, I was waking up. My uncle would drive the car behind me while I go run a couple miles and I go shoot some hoops. He put a basketball court in the backyard and then I would go and do my thing. You know what I'm saying? Then I would go to school, come back, do it again, right? And my life was based around that. I really didn't do too much like kid stuff. You know what I mean? Because like for me, that was the kid stuff. So going into it, I was like, yo, like that's cool. But if you go to the gym and you don't know what to work on, you're wasting your time. So for me, it was good to have a mentor that came in and was like, hey, look, I'll make the sacrifice. This is a grown man. He's making a sacrifice to get up, come get me, right? Take me to the gym.
Push you.
Push me.
Care about you.
Right? Coach me. Whatever he got to do. And for me, I looked at it as I've always had like a business mindset. So I always looked at it as a partnership of like, okay, cool. He's not charging me. Right? Which is like, he was doing it for free. Because I think he was smart too. Because it was like, if you charge me, I can't pay. This ain't gonna work, right? But if you get me good, right, or if you get me better, because I was good when he grabbed me, right? You get me better, you get me in some of these gyms, then I'm a giver, bro. So if you hit me up, if I get interviewed, that's like you getting interviewed. Because I'm gonna put your name on there. Hey, yeah. So that's what I would do every time. So what's working for you? You jumped an extra 12 points sophomore to junior year. What were you doing? I was working out with 12, this guy. Huh? Yeah, I jumped up 12.
That's tough, yo.
And then I was like, what was working for you? I was working out with this guy. Every day we do workouts on Saturdays and Sundays. You know what I mean? Like y'all should hit him up. And then now he got his name in the paper. Now he get his story. Now we blowing up his side. But it was a partnership, man. But it was a blessing.
That's really good.
Everything that you. It comes full circle when you look each other out, man. Like especially like adults looking out for younger kids. Like this was a really important conversation about what you're saying because it's just like it's not enough of that. Like I keep visualizing your dad and your family in my brain and like they knew they knew that was a terrible idea for you, for you, right? So I just want to end with that, man. Like because. It's not enough mentors, there's not enough guidance, there's not enough people that, fell and bumped your head 1,000 times and now you got this younger person to look at and you not staring them in the right way because you still bitter, because you still upset with how your life turned out. When you got a kid right here that you could change everything and you choose not to do it.
Yeah, mentorship is like a lost art these days, man. It's crazy because everybody comes into it. And like a big part of what I do now work-wise is about coaching and training other people. That's the part of the aspect that I love, right? But a lot of people go into it with the wrong intentions. They're going into it to get something out of it, right? Whereas they're going into it like, hey, man, let me just go put the work in, right? Because it's just like anything else. Whereas if you get a kid and you're trying to help this individual grow, you got to understand you're shaping the mind, you're shaping the mold of a young person. And that's going to be how we move in the future. And that person will give back. You know what I'm saying? So it starts from that basic, simple
Let me ask y'all both real quick and we're going with this. What's your definition of success?
Mine is just being peaceful and happy. I can be broke, whatever. I just want to be peaceful and happy. That's my definition of success.
Nice and simple. KENELL, what you got?
So for me, man, like success can be anything, but for me personally, my definition of success is to have the others, the team that's around you, they gotta have happiness, they gotta have that peace, they gotta be comfortable where they at. Because if that's the case, then you won.
I like that.